J. Cole.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new J. Cole album, Born Sinner. J. Cole is a rapper, producer, and one of the more worthwhile artists that Jay-Z has put on in a while. And Jay-Z endorsing this guy, having him on the blueprint, and signing him through Roc Nation did really give him a huge heap of attention, and I don't think anyone could argue that J. Cole didn't take advantage of the opportunity as best that he could, with some really buzz-building EPs and mixtapes. And then with Cole World in 2011, The Sideline Story. On this album, Cole showed his versatility because he did have some club tracks on there, he did have some singles, some hits, as well as more personal and socially conscious moments as well. And Cole's production talents on this album led to a lot of beats that were cinematic, beautiful, sort of moving at points. My biggest issue on this LP though was kind of the consistency between the songs and just the lyricism. When he brags and sort of centers on himself, I don't really see what makes him different than any other guy out there. It's not like he's the only conscious rapper out there who's making a lot of waves too. You have artists like Big Crit and Kendrick Lamar who are doing conscious hip hop right now that is bolder, grittier, and incredibly emotional. Now, Born Sinner, in a way, is sort of an improvement over The Sideline Story, I think, because it definitely doesn't feel like an album where Cole had a ton of pressure to come out with a radio single, or at least to produce a radio single that sounded like everybody else's radio single. However, the album still comes through pretty disjointed, despite the title, despite the really dramatic cover art, and the fact that Cole comes right out front and center at the start of the album and says, "It's way darker this time." J. Cole lyrically and emotionally doesn't sound any more conflicted, tortured, or even more religious than he did on his last full length. The instrumental talent on this LP is still there for sure. The opening track, Voluminati, has this heavily rhythmic beat, lots of detail in these drums, and these soaring, whimsical strings that are really dramatic. Feels like he nabbed it from the R. Kelly track, I Wish. The beat is great. I've tuned in, I want to hear what Cole is going to say, but it turns out that all he's done is really just aired a rerun. He's rapping again about how he chased down Jay-Z to listen to his stuff. Then there's haters and internet rappers. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, an incredibly stupid use of the word faggot in the song. Cole spends the next few lines justifying his use of the word, saying, "Oh, are you offended? You shouldn't be so sensitive. Oh yeah, you're homophobic for getting offended at that." Since when is the person who gets offended at the use of that word the homophobe? Typically the user is the homophobe. And what's funny is a little further down the line he calls someone a retard, but he doesn't feel the need to justify that. I guess retard's okay, but faggot's bad. The only moment in the track lyrically that I think was impressive was the spot where he talked about Barack Obama apologizing to the Japanese and then saying, "Where's the president's apology to the impoverished people who are suffering in urban America today?" And, you know, of course, I mean, that's an interesting statement, but it's not exactly like Cole is the first person to make that statement, and it's not like after some of the lines on this track that you would want him to represent this statement. The track Land of Snakes has a sample from a great Outkast song from their album Aquemini, and yeah, it sort of serves as I want to say a very nostalgic backdrop for Cole as he reminisces about this love story in his past. And it basically goes like, he slept with a girl, he hung her out to dry, then she confronted him on it, and I think he might have felt bad? Maybe? Oh, baby, don't stop. It's really hard to tell because there's not really a moment in this track where Cole feels really emotional or remorseful. And he's rapping about painting a picture of his pain, and I'm not really seeing the pain at all on this track. It's actually a pretty mundane story how he describes it. I just don't see what's so special about this story or his delivery on it. He doesn't even seem the least bit upset that this girl slipped through his fingers or that he might have treated her wrongly. And what's even more ridiculous is on the song Power Trip, Cole finds himself obsessing over a girl. And with the really kind of flat, distorted, very beat on this song, the best things about this track are the Hubert Laws sample with the jazz flute, and Miguel, who actually did a great job of singing on this track, and if he wasn't on it, it would have no single potential whatsoever. It boggles my mind that this was the lead single off of this LP. It's not just Cole's lack of oomph that really ruins these songs or makes them forgettable, though. Sometimes it's sort of what he says too that's kind of outlandish, like the song Trouble, where honestly the lyrics to the hook on this track, especially at the end of the chorus where he says gunshots in the air but I ain't scared for my life, this entire chorus sounds like a rap parody. It's kind of ridiculous to think that this same guy wrote that girl-guy verse exchange on the song Lost Ones from Cole's last album. I mean, that song was incredibly emotional in my opinion, a little outlandish with its concept with him rapping from the standpoint of a girl in another verse, but still, you gotta admire the guy's balls for trying something like that out. And now, something like a similar situation on this album ends up being sort of a stupid punchline, like, "Mama, did you fuck J. Cole?" And Cole continues to dish out more stories of heartbreak over women. The dude is turning into Drake, but it's not even good, introspective, deep, dark, sad Drake today. This is like mixtape Drake, except the hooks, singing, and beats do not pop. And the only thing keeping these songs sort of relevant to the theme of this album are Cole's very small lyrical detours into career, money, and morals. Things on this LP get a little bit more personal and ideological, like on the 9th track here, where Cole is dealing a lot with people who are rich, people who are poor, and the song Forbidden Fruit, which actually has Kendrick Lamar. Sadly, he doesn't really go in on a great verse on this song. But even as Cole tries to make some wider statements on these tracks, he continues to say things that make it difficult to take him seriously, like how he's dropping his album the same time that Kanye is dropping his. There are just a lot of spots on this LP where Cole seems too obsessed with temporary dramas to make a long-lasting statement. It's like it's not going to get any better than this, and he's not seeing that his efforts are just merely building up to be footprints that are going to get washed away in the waves. If the track Crooked Smile with TLC on this LP isn't begging to be washed away, I don't know what is. Honestly, the only riveting tracks on this LP, the only songs that I really liked, were the songs that came toward the end, namely Let Nas Down. It's got a really silky, sweet, sexy jazz sample throughout the track. It's a really epic instrumental. And the song is essentially about dealing with the disappointment of hearing that one of his hip-hop heroes disliked one of his big singles. And Cole does not come off as a lyrical god on this song, but he does feel really emotional. This song itself feels way more inspired than most of the tracks on this LP. I love how Cole sort of makes a god of Nas. He obsesses over him, he goes into his past, but still is aware enough to call Nas out on his shortcomings with dropping singles, not only You Owe Me, but I think he could have referenced Summer on Smash. And yeah, maybe Cole is not in the position to make these kinds of statements given that Nas has a few classics under his belt, but you could argue that if Cole continued to make moves this ballsy, he might have a classic or two under his belt at this point. The closing track on this LP is beautiful. It really delves into a lot of those moral and religious themes that you would assume would come with an album of this title, but honestly, it's just too little, too late. I'm feeling a decent to strong 5. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Hate it? Why? What should I review next? And that's it. I want to give a shout out to Nori, not Kim Ye's baby, my baby, Josh, and video games. Remember, this was my review. If you don't like it, here's a straw. Only the strong subscribe. All mistakes were intentional. Anthony Fantano, J. Cole, forever.